This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the Urban Lounge, located at 241 South, 500 East, right in downtown Salt Lake City. Head on over to their website, theurbanloungeslc.com, connect with them on Twitter and Facebook, and find out about all of the upcoming shows.
Showcasing local talent, professionals, and everyday people making Salt Lake City what it is today. It's time for another episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the I Am Salt Lake podcast, episode 116. My name is Chris Hollifield. I am your host. Welcome to my show. Welcome to the podcast all about Salt Lake City. IamSaltLake.com is a website. You can check out all the previous episodes, download them right there from the website. Also links for iTunes, Stitcher Radio. We're also on the Mediocre Radio Network. So check those links out. Also have my contact information, Twitter, Facebook. I'm all over the place. So make sure to connect with me and let me know if you want to be a guest on a future episode of the podcast. I want to really quickly mention I was recently interviewed in Black Rectangle. It's an online magazine, brand new online magazine here from Salt Lake City. You can check out the interview that I did with them just by going to iamsaltlake.com/blackrectangle, and that will forward you to the interview. It was a great time. I sat down and I chatted with Steven, and he had a chance to get to know me a little bit better, and I shared my story so you guys could read that and find out a little bit more about me. Anyways, this episode, Jeramie Velarde and Brad Barker joined me. Jeramie's doing another Cre801 event. It's upcoming Saturday, November the 9th. At 5 Monkeys, located at 7th East, 4800 South. It's a fundraiser for Corbin versus All Ninjas. We talk about that in the interview. I also talked to Brad Barker, get to know him a little bit better, find out about how Victims Willing started, the early 1980s punk rock scene here in Salt Lake City. Really great conversation. Really great guy. Really great to finally meet Brad. We've been online friends for a while, and it was great to finally meet him in person and have him share his story. So anyways, I'm going to put all the links at iamsaltlake.com/116. That way you can connect with all the information regarding the next Cre801 fundraiser. There's going to be art there from all different kinds of artists. Cat Martin, Joshua L. Johnston, Lance Everall, Brad Barker. I mean, tons of great local artists, as well as music from Victims Willing and Tough Tittie. And it looks like Los Rojos was recently added after this conversation that I had with Jeramie and Brad. So you're going to want to make sure to go there, check out the music, donate to a good cause. $5 at the door. They got a $1 art raffle. It's a really good time, it sounds like. So anyways, why don't you guys join me now as I talk to Jeramie and Brad as they came over to my apartment here in downtown Salt Lake City. So anyways, take 2. We'll start going again. We have Jeramie Velarde, and we're actually sitting in with Brad Barker as well. Hi. How you doing, Brad? Thank you for joining in on the third Cre801 segment. That's here right. On the podcast. But it's your 5th Cre801 event, right?
Yes, I believe. Yep.
Just to kind of bring people up to speed, what is Cre801 and kind of what made you decide to start doing fundraiser events?
Well, the first one was just supposed to be just a trial thing. It's a music art show, and then we added the charity event later. So Cre801 was just going to be one art show. I really wanted to show my brother's stuff, and Brad, a good friend of mine, is an artist, so we showed his stuff, and Lance Everall and JLJ, and JLJ recommended, let's do it for a charity as well. So we raised, a few hundred for the road home, and that kind of got just the bug going in me, that I wanted to do it more. So all it is local artists getting together and playing music, showing art, and then we have a $1 art raffle at the end of the night. And it's
which I'm sure that's been pretty successful.
It has. People really get excited for it. Really
popular.
Yeah, because it's $1 per raffle ticket, and each artist, even more than the artists that are at the previous event are at the current event. More artists will donate. So we get lots of art donated to it, and yeah, it's $1 per raffle ticket. And
well, awesome. Well, let's bring it up to date. November 9th at 5 Monkeys.
Yes.
Is this your first time at Five Monkeys doing it?
It's the second time.
Okay, that's right. Because the time before, last time it was at a warehouse, and then the time before was Five Monkeys. So Five Monkeys, go down the lineup. I guess we'll have Jeramie kind of go down the lineup of the artists, the music.
It's 4800 South, 7 East, Five Monkeys, and it's just west of State Street. It's $5 at the door, and 100% goes to Corbin versus all ninjas.
Talk about that. What is that?
Corbin's a 3-year-old who has leukemia. They found out last March.
He's here in Salt Lake City, Salt Lake Cityan.
He's a 3-year-old little boy. He has to go through chemo and different various treatments for the next 3 years of his life. He's going to miss Halloween trick-or-treating because he's going to have chemo that day. Yeah.
Poor guy.
I mean, he's just, his mom writes a blog.
Have you met him at all?
I haven't met him. I've just emailed back and forth with his mom and read a bunch of her blogs and stuff. And, I feel pretty connected just by reading her stuff. She puts a lot out there, and I feel that she's very brave for doing that, sharing,
What kind of stuff is she sharing?
Just like daily things that they're going through, a lot of her emotions, a lot of what he's going through, pictures, and, just.
Do you know the website off the top of your head?
It's Corbin versus all ninjas blogspot. And then on Facebook, it's Corbin versus all ninjas.
Okay, yeah, just for people listening. And of course, I'll get all the links on the show notes. So anyways, the artists that are involved.
So the artists are Brad Lamora, Wes Greaves, Brad Barker, the wonderful Brad Barker.
That's joining us here today.
Cap Martin, JLJ, and Lance Everall. And it's going to be hosted by Kylie Cook. He's a comedian. And we're going to have music from Victims Willing, the lovely Victims Willing, and Tough Tittie.
That is a name of a band. Tough Tittie.
Tough Tittie. Pretty badass, huh?
And they're a great band.
Are they pretty good band?
They are cool.
They're a very good band.
And I've heard about this Victims Willing band. Is that, they're a pretty good band, right?
Yeah, they're okay.
So, these artists, I mean, you just kind of found them online, and I mean, again, some of them are repeats. Cap Martin, this is her first time doing it with you.
Cap Martin's the only one I've never met. Well, I've never met Wes Greaves either, but Wes is a good friend of Brad Barker's.
Yes.
And I've seen his different work. Actually, Wes got a hold of me and asked if
he could be part of a future event.
Correct.
How often are you doing these now?
It seems like every 3 to 4 months.
Is that about what it is? I'll have to look through my back podcast episode list there. Cause now we're in the hundreds. I know you were on one of the 40 and then 80 and
85, I think.
Yeah. So if you're listening, go back and listen to some of the old episodes with Jeramie. We had Lance on, and then your cousin was on another one. And now we have Brad Barker. Which I want to pick your brain a little bit. I want to talk to you a little bit. You're an artist as well as a musician.
Yes.
In Victims Willing, I was doing a little looking around. 1980 is when this band started. Is that true?
Yes.
What were you, 5 years old when you started this band or what? That's ridiculous.
About 15 probably.
About 15 years old.
Yeah. And I'm 48 now.
And you're still living the rock and roll lifestyle.
Yeah. It's kind of a hard thing to get out of you, really. I think once you get into the rock and roll thing, it's, it gets a lot of emotion out, and it's sort of therapeutic, and I think you just get to where you really enjoy it and maybe are a little addicted to it.
Oh yeah.
You stop and, there's been several times I've just gone, I'm not playing music anymore. I'm done with it. And, 6 months later, it's like I can't stand it. I'm going crazy, and I'm back in a band. So
you played in quite a few bands, even.
I haven't really played. I've played in a few, but not quite a few. Not, for as long as I've been doing it, I've had pretty stable bands. So I've done, I think, 4 bands total in my whole life.
Which were?
Victims Willing, Hair Farm, Anger Overload, Know It All, and then back to Victims Willing.
And do you just do vocals, right? Or do you play? I
play guitar. I write some of the music.
Okay.
In Know It All, I played all the guitar. All the rhythm guitar, and then there was a lead guitarist and sang. But in the other bands, I've just been the lead singer.
Okay. Well, let's actually play a Victims Willing song, and then we'll end the podcast with a Tough Tittie song.
Awesome.
If that works for you guys. And then I want to come back and talk to Brad some more about, the 80s and Salt Lake City, what the punk rock, hardcore, I mean, that whole scene was like back then. We'll get into that. So I'll let Brad pick what, Victims Willing song we'll play.
I Unknown.
What's it? I Unknown?
I Unknown.
I Unknown.
Great song.
We'll play that and we'll come back and talk.
Set it as your alarm clock, kids.
Yeah, set it. There you go.
It'll wake you up.
And we'll come back, talk to Jeramie and Brad some more. So, Brad.
Yes.
You were 15 years old.
Yeah.
When you wanted, did you actually start the band, or did somebody come to you and say, let's start this band? I mean, give me a little bit of history here. I'm intrigued. 1980. I was 3 years old, man.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I was 3 years old. And, you grew up here in Salt Lake City, or no?
Yes. Off and on.
Off and on.
Here between here and Idaho Falls a lot. I had a pretty crazy childhood and spent a lot of time with my grandparents. So,
but Idaho Falls, that must have been boring.
There's some very interesting people there, and no, it really wasn't that boring.
Yeah,
I had a great time.
So, talk about, I mean, the band. I mean, is it the same lineup as it was then? I mean, have you guys all stuck together? And
we did until recently. Mostly, we had a pretty revolving door going with drummers. For some reason, that's been hard for us to keep one drummer through all this, but it's always been me on vocals and Kelly Evans, who I started the band with, basically on guitar, and Joe Jukes on bass. And
you guys all get along pretty good. And
we get along great.
You guys like best friends, I would imagine. By now.
Yeah, Kelly's been my best friend since I was 11 years old.
What was the music scene back 1980? I mean, I've had Kevin from the Heavy Metal Shop on the show in the past, and I mean, that was a while back, but just listening about how music it was tough to even get back in like 85, 86.
Absolutely.
I mean, what what was it that you remember the music scene like back then?
Well, okay. I came from like your typical 70s background, like Styx and Foreigner and Boston and all that stuff. And I saw all those bands in concert and Kiss and things like that. And then,
here, you saw them here in Salt Lake.
Yeah.
Man, that must have been
At the Salt Palace.
The Salt Palace.
Yes.
So
it was a big round arena.
were there a lot of people going to concerts back then in Salt Lake City?
Oh my God. Yeah. It was packed.
Really?
Yeah. if you went and saw like, say, Journey or Heart or Kiss, the Salt Palace would be packed. And I don't know how much that ever held, but it was a lot. And they would sell out shows there.
But your style of music?
My style of music. So, yeah, what happened is, I was at Kelly's house one day, who is the guitarist of the band. And there was this show on television about the London music scene or European punk rock scene. And, they played a bunch of different bands, but they played a band called the Boomtown Rats. And it was a song called, Neon Heart. And it was I just remember the sound of it and the intensity and the anger of it, and that it was so stripped down, in comparison to something like Boston or whatever. And, so right there, in that moment, I was like, holy shit, I'm going to be a punk rocker. This is the most awesome thing I've ever seen. And they showed a bunch of other bands. And of course, it was at the time when people were just, throwing a big fit about the Sex Pistols and just how hideous and heinous they were, But man, as soon as I saw the Boomtown Rats, I went out and bought their album. I bought the Ramones.
And where would you buy it back then? Like, do you remember the music shops?
Yes,
the music stores?
I do. I bought those particular records at the Record Bar in the ZCMI Center.
The ZC, like the old Crossroads, or across the street from where Crossroads used to be before the City Creek came in.
And there was a guy there named Chris Bertinelli, and they're coming to get you.
Yeah. If you hear those cops in the background there.
Yeah.
Did you steal the Ramones album?
I did. No. But anyway, Chris was into that. He was tuned into that. And so he ordered a lot of that stuff. And he did a lot of ordering through. There was a company at the time called Gem Imports.
Was he into that kind of music at all?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
so he was.
And he actually turned me on to a lot of stuff.
Like you would go in there, he'd be like, check this record out.
Yes.
You gotta check this out. Okay, okay.
And I heard the Pretenders the first time in there. I heard Generation X first time in there.
And this is how music, this is, there's a lot of people, and I'm sure even listening to this podcast, they don't, they don't have a memory of going to a music store to buy music. Now it's like, okay, go on iTunes, go, it's
right.
Like, that was the fun of buying music.
Oh yeah.
I grew up and would go to Ranch and stuff and you have to search it out. So anyway, sorry, you were talking about he would introduce you to these bands and
then at one point I ran into a flyer. I'm not even sure where I ran into it or if somebody handed it to me. But anyway, it was for a radio show on KRCL. At the time it was called I'm So Bored with the USA. And it had Brad Collins, who runs Ranch Records, as one of the DJs. And they would share weeks. And on the other week, it would be Susan Brown. And they just basically played, punk rock and avant-garde and new wave and different things.
Which I'm sure was very,
it was so intense.
Extreme here in Salt Lake City.
And I think it was just extreme anywhere because the musical landscape was so bland up to that point that all that stuff just seemed like I remember hearing things and I was like thinking, God, that is just scary sounding, just twisted. And, now I listen to that same stuff and it just seems so mellow. It still has, very much, a different sound to it. It's like nothing else sounds like that era. But, at the time, it was just like, wow, this is scary, dark stuff. And I couldn't get enough of it. And I eventually got, from listening to the radio show, then got, turned on to the Cosmic Airplane. And
I've heard stories about the Cosmic Airplane. I wasn't around during that era, but,
it was the shit. It was so awesome. You would go into this place and it was all books upstairs and, everything from tarot cards, calendars, all that stuff. And then you had to go down into this kind of creepy basement, and they just had racks of records. You know, they had like a huge sections of albums, and it was all pretty much punk rock. And then they'd have just bins full of singles. So everything that was coming out in America, everything from the UK, you know, Europe, you could just get all this crazy stuff. And at the time, you know, records were really cheap. I mean, they were $5 an album or whatever. And you could get a 7-inch EP for like $2.99 probably.
Yeah. Were there a lot of people buying it though back then? I mean, were there a lot of punk kids? I mean,
it was crazy. I think, yeah, there was way more than you would imagine. You know, you would go in there anytime and there were people downstairs buying punk records. And
wasn't the manager or the guy who started Blue Boutique, wasn't he the manager or something?
He might have been
at Cosmic Airplane. I think I heard that story or something.
Yeah, that could be. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Anyways, just a little Salt Lake City history. You know, I get fascinated with the history of the city, you know, just kind of to see the progression, you know, just how we've evolved as a city. I mean, I've heard even shows back in the day, a lot of bands would skip over Salt Lake because there wasn't any place to play. I mean, was that true? Were there a lot of like venues for like the smaller punk bands or?
There became several of them. At first, not really, but people found venues that they could rent, or, you know, they did a bunch of really cool shows up at a frat house up, you know, by the college.
Or warehouses.
Yeah, things like that. I saw a really cool show, well, a couple of really cool shows at a place out by the airport called the Grease Pit. And it was just like this big garage that somebody's dad owned, where I'm not sure if they did, you know, fixed airplanes in there or cars or whatever, but there was a big like trough in the floor, and so people would be slam dancing. You had to watch for this trough.
Did anybody ever fall in it?
Not that I remember, but you know, I didn't go to every single show there, so who knows?
What was your first like punk show that you went to? That you would, I mean, I guess consider punk. I mean, that's so loose anymore.
Yeah, well,
what is considered punk
right now? But then it was very, the very, very first local punk show I went to was at a place called Harmony Park. It was a little white building down on around Main Street and 4500 South. And it was just a building that somebody rented in the park. And I saw, it was the Atheists, the Boards, Angle, and a band called Victims of Duty. And Victims of Duty were kind of a weird band. I don't really, they played maybe that one show and nothing else. But the Atheists and the Boards and Angle played a lot of shows, and they were like really like the first wave of Salt Lake punk rock, and they were just fantastic, particularly the Boards. The Boards were an amazing band, and like I said, you know, when some of that music was scary, like when I was young, the Boards were the scariest band I'd ever seen. They just looked like they were just mean, and they just rocked, and they were like probably like, you know, 10 years, 15 years older than me at that time. And they just had this image of like greaser. They wore sunglasses on stage and leather jackets, and their hair was all gelled, and they were amazing. Amazing. And they recently, got back together and did a couple of shows at Bert's Tiki Lounge and somewhere out in the desert. But, and it was a great reunion. I saw it and it was awesome. But, yeah, that was the first local band.
How many kids were coming out to these shows probably? I mean, were there, I mean, a lot, a little, I mean, I'm just curious.
Little. It was probably, you know, that local show is probably 50 people.
Which isn't bad, really. Not bad. I guess, I mean, it's not much different than today, I guess, in that standard. But I was just kind of curious, like, what the scene was like. I mean, you know, what the punk scene was. Right. It couldn't have been very big.
It wasn't really, you know, that big. You're right. But I think that there were a lot of people who were, that were into it. Everybody was really dedicated to it. Like, I didn't miss a show. You know, if there was a show,
that's where you would go.
Like,
you would hang out with your friends, and
and other punks.
Well, and it was also your way to support the scene,
right?
You know, and I think that that's how it was for me. It was like I got to keep going to these shows so they keep happening. Now it's just kind of like, well, I don't have $10 to go to this, and you know, you can hit up another one next Friday, and
it was a lot different then too. It's like, you know, a punk rock show is like you could see 6 bands for $1. Or $2.
Is that how much they cost to get in?
Yeah.
No way.
I'm not
seriously
lying.
$1?
Yeah.
gosh.
But anyway, the first big touring band I saw, I'm confused on this. It was either Black Flag or the Dead Kennedys.
Like Henry Rollins Black Flag or Keith Morris Black Flag?
It wasn't even Keith Morris. It was, he plays guitar for the Misfits now.
Yeah, they've gone through so many singers, man.
Yeah, I mean, it'll come.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But Black Flag.
I saw both of them in the same summer or whatever, so I can't remember which one was first.
Do you remember where that was?
It was at the Indian Center across from the baseball field downtown.
Okay. Were there a lot of shows there back then?
There were a lot of shows there. Brad Collins started renting that place out, and he did like every major touring band that he could get in that place.
What were the police? I mean, did they ever come in and like try to shut this stuff down?
Yeah, there were times later. That came later. That came around like, 1984, 85 when punk rock had gotten big enough and there was enough going on in Los Angeles and stuff that, the cops saw it as a threat. And,
word of mouth. And,
yeah.
So it wasn't just a Salt Lake City thing. It was kind of happening all over.
Oh yeah, definitely.
with the police and.
Yeah, there's tons of stories of like, with the police that you can.
So Victims Willing, when did that, 1980, where was your first show at with that then? Where did you guys play?
We played for a long time just in my basement and,
driving your mom crazy, I'm sure, right? Or was she pretty were your family pretty supportive of you playing?
No, not really. But at the time I lived with my stepmother.
Okay.
Who was pretty supportive.
So you had the cool stepmother.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Or at the very least, she tolerated it and never really gave us any, shit about it or anything. But the first show that we played was at, the, frat house that I mentioned before. And we played with, a band from Chicago called Articles of Faith. And
were they Utah? No, they were from Chicago.
They were from Chicago and they were hardcore. They were.
I just thought maybe that was really a Utah reference there, Articles of Faith.
No, actually it didn't really have anything to do with that, I don't think. And a band from Los Angeles called Legal Weapon. And it was great. It was
you just had a good time. And I mean, did you take a break at all? Did Victims Willing? I mean, was it like how long what's the wording I'm looking for? How long did you play? When did you quit? You can't have kept going all these years.
No, we did not. So we started and then we had a really long run. I don't think we broke up until sometime in the 90s, like early to mid 90s. And we were probably broken up for
just because you were burned out or what?
Yeah, it just totally burned out. We had just done it for so long and just weren't really getting anywhere. And there was no one really to help us put out records. And then we thought we had a record deal in Europe and it fell through. And by then I think we were so discouraged and so in need of something different that we just sort of went our separate ways. And it wasn't like nobody was mad at anybody. It wasn't that kind of a breakup. It was just like, God, this is just, we're beating a dead horse.
Yeah. It takes a toll a number of years trying with a band. I mean,
how many albums did you put out?
We didn't. We put out a 1 7-inch.
1 7-inch. Like a self-produced. You had it pressed yourself, or did you have a label pick that up? Or
Brad from Ranch put it out on Ranch Records. We paid for the recording, and then he paid for the vinyl.
What made you decide to start the band up again then? Or is it really officially, or is it just kind of a show here and there? No, it's official. I mean, we're a band and we play quite frequently. What happened is like, I've told this story a lot. So, anyway, my brother. Pretend it's the first time to me. Yeah. Okay. My brother about 5 years ago died, my twin brother, in basically what would be considered probably a routine operation. And anyway, after the operation, while he was on the mend, he died. And at that point, I really started thinking like, wow, like what is really important in life? And it's not money and it's not what you have, or it really comes down to people. It really comes down to, people in your life and who you have in your life. And at that point, I decided like the most important people in my life were Kelly, the guitarist of our band, and Joe, the bass player. And I was like, we just did not finish that. It's an undone thing. Like there's still more to it. We still have a lot to do, and we still all enjoyed playing music and stuff. So at that point, I just asked them like, let's just put this back together if you think we can do it. And did they go for it? Oh yeah. They were just like, yeah, let's do it. And, I had a friend that had played in a
band with before that, Matt, and he played in Know It All, and we asked him to play because the other guitarist that had played with us was gone. He went off to Iraq and a bunch of stuff, but so he has his own story. But so Matt joined with us, and then the drummer we had moved to Las Vegas, so we ended up getting a friend of his that used to come to all of our practices and hang out, and he was just a little kid at the time, and he had grown up and become quite a good drummer himself, and he was like, I want to do this. So he came back in, and we ended up recording an album. And
so you do have an album out now?
Now we do, yeah.
And is it just online? Can people get the CD or?
The CD is out of print right now, but it will be reprinted again here pretty soon. And we'll have a new one coming in.
Not in time probably for the Cre801 event.
No. I don't think so.
So what do you enjoy most about playing music? There's got to be one thing that you like a little bit more.
I think it's just my artistic drive. It's like I have all this stuff in me. It's got to come out. It's, but art's got to come out. The music's got to come out. It's all got to come out in one form or another.
And but you're also an artist as well.
Right.
When did you start painting?
Oh, I don't really know. It hasn't been that long.
What made you decide to start painting?
Well, I went to college for a little bit to do graphic design, and we had a bunch of preliminary classes or whatever you had to take, or classes you had to take with that. And one of them was, drawing or painting or whatever. And so I took painting and got just a little bit of info on how to use acrylic paints. And I'd never used them before. And so I, learned how to mix them and, make the consistency that it should be or whatever to paint. And then basically went from there.
And your art is going to be at the Cre801 event.
Yes.
And then you'll have probably one of your pieces in the raffle.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite medium that you paint on or?
I paint in acrylics
just acrylics.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert artist. You would think by now I would be, with all the artists I've talked to. And
well, a lot of people like to play with a lot of different mediums,
Yeah.
I find that I'm just kind of stuck with, the acrylics.
What inspires you to paint? Do you get into a mood and you say, I got to paint? Or do you just say, this Friday night I'm going to paint?
It's just like you said at first. It's like a mood. Yeah. I will go long periods of not painting. And then I'll have periods where I just whip out a bunch of them. So it just depends on where I'm at and what I'm feeling like. And
do you sell any of them at any other local galleries or anything?
Not really galleries, but I've done a lot of different shows.
Did a lot of different shows here in Salt Lake. You mentioned you were a DJ on KRCL at one time, yes. Or you still are? Or
I am not anymore.
Yeah, I didn't think you were on there
for a little while in the late '90s. I think it was took over Brad Collins' show when he quit. It was called Behind the Zion Curtain, and I did that for 3 years, I think, maybe 4.
Did you ever want to get further into radio? Did you ever want to progress and go further?
No, not really. It really didn't turn out to be really my cup of tea. I always thought it would be really fun to do it.
What about it? What didn't you like? Just talking into a microphone? No,
I liked that, and I liked playing music. But as with many things, there was a lot of rules, and I don't really do very well with rules.
Rules you couldn't say fuck.
You couldn't play any obscenities. Yeah. You had, there's FCC laws. You have to
That's why podcasts are great, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Brad has a great podcast on Spreaker.
Okay, so I'm glad
I do. And I never talk on it really. I mean, I tried on a couple episodes, but that was another thing I didn't really like. I don't really like talking on the radio. I just wanted to play music. So that's what I do in my podcast. It's basically a half-hour little things of just music.
Like your favorite music or what?
I jump all over the place.
You let's talk about your podcast actually, since we're
okay.
So what's the name? I mean, how can people find it?
Well, there's two, but anyway, it's Skunk in a Bag Radio, and it's on Spreaker. But there's also once you get there, you can go on to another little show I do called Punk as Fuck, and I pretty much play nothing but most of the time, 80s.
Punk as fuck music.
Yeah,
right?
80s, 80s hardcore. and I'm a big fan of American hardcore, so that's probably the biggest majority of what I play on that.
What do you mean by just not the English, the Clash and Sex Pistols?
I do play those things occasionally. I'll just do a little thing I'm going to do really old school and do, Generation X, the Stranglers, the Clash.
I bet you have an incredible vinyl collection.
I do not.
You do not.
I had one for a long time. I had so much, And then CDs came along and I just thought they were the greatest thing in the world and basically sold my vinyl collection.
That's kind of how I was.
And I still like my, everybody else seems to be going back to vinyl. I don't want anything to do with it. Fuck it. I'm not good at taking care of vinyl. And I never have been. And so.
Well, it's a pain in the ass to move. I mean, they're so heavy.
If you have to move, you're totally screwed.
I mean, like, it's just so nice. MP3s. I don't know. I've broken down and given into technology.
Me too. And I love it.
Yeah.
I love that you can put your whole record collection on an iPod and take it anywhere you want to go. To me, that is just the shit.
See, I would have thought the opposite from you. You know what I mean? You're like the ultimate old school punk rock dude.
But see, to me,
you just want access to your music.
Yeah, that's all I care about.
Do you think people get into vinyl and it's a little bit more for show?
Yeah,
a little
definitely
bit more,
pretentious.
Like, oh, I have
look what
vinyl.
I got.
Yeah,
I've got a record tattooed on my arm.
But that's a cool tattoo.
I love my vinyl. I just barely inherited like 3 crates of the coolest vinyl ever. Zeppelin, Beatles. Oh, I was so happy.
Well, and there is something about listening to like a Led Zeppelin on vinyl, just that analog, that popping. And I mean, there is something to be said about it, but it is nice to have your collection on like your iPhone or your iPod.
Oh, yeah.
So cool. I wish they did like, 200 gigabyte iPods. I would have one.
True.
And it would be full.
I've been listening to that old 7-inch of Victims all the time too.
Yeah.
So back to what is? I think we talked about Spreaker when you were on the show before. What is Spreaker? I'm not familiar.
It's a podcast app.
Okay, so it's just kind of an app so you can't find your podcast like on iTunes or anything like that. It's just
might. It seems like at one point they were putting them on.
Oh, really?
iTunes, but I can't remember.
Okay. Well, I'll try to look for it and see.
But you can download it and put it onto an iPod.
Is there a link that you could send me to?
Yes.
So I could either check it out and then also link it in with the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or is there an easy way for even people listening right now to find it? Do you know?
I never remember these things, but it might just be Spreaker.com and then Bax Turbine.
So
sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
You post them on your Facebook page a lot too, don't you?
All the time.
Yeah.
Do you care if I link your Facebook page up too
I don't mind
with
at all.
this
Go right
podcast, so people can, connect with you and
I would love that.
And, well, what else do you do for fun, Brad, since we're talking to you here for a second? I mean,
we've kind of covered what I do for fun.
Yeah. Music
and art.
Music and art.
Yeah.
And
I like my dogs. I play with them a bit.
What kind of dogs do you have?
I have a Labrador and a Pit Bull.
I just like to, find out about it, people, kind of what they're all about. And, and I'm going to ask Brad and Jeramie can chime in too. I'm always asking like favorite local eating spots. That's become a favorite part of the show for a lot of people. And, I don't know if have I asked you, Jeramie, have we ever included that in any of the Cre801 podcasts? So, well, yeah, both you guys. I mean, yeah. What are your favorite, local eating spots?
I like Taqueria 27. It's a very good taco place.
Yeah.
Pork belly tacos are to die for. Thai Delight, 6200 South and just off Bangor.
I'll have to check them out. Yeah, I'm always looking for new places to eat, and there's so much delicious food. And I hate when people, they go to the chain garbage,
Oh, yeah.
I'm not even going to name them. They don't even deserve their name to be mentioned.
And people love that shit for some reason. Like, I'm just so often surprised at there's out where I live in West Valley, lots of neat little
there's so much delicious food out there, man.
Yeah, and there's a couple of bars that have really great food.
Like what?
Yeah,
Let's give some names here.
Yeah, one of the bars that I like a lot.
The Westerner?
Never. You'll never see me there. What is it called? Copper Canyon.
Okay.
Is the bar. It's on 3500. Almost 3500 South and 5600 West.
Copper Creek. No.
Copper
it's
King?
Copper Canyon.
They got like subs or no.
Burgers.
I'm thinking of something else. Then.
Yeah, there is a Copper Creek. You
are
correct. I think. I should look this up. But
no, I used to eat there because I used to work out at I used to work out at the airport, and we used to jet up.
This is only
54
one.
South there.
Yeah. There's only one. It's on 5600 West and 3500 South.
Okay.
That's the only one they own, and I'm pretty sure it's Copper Canyon.
Anyway, but good food.
Oh, great! They have burgers that are killer.
Yeah.
And wings and all that kind of stuff. But right in front of that is a Taco Bell, and it's just packed constantly. And this bar has like 10 cars in front of it. And there's like 30 cars going through the drive-in or at, any of those chain places.
It's sad. It's like, what the hell? Like, seriously, why do we keep going to, Taco Bell and these
I don't.
these, Applebee's,
right. I'm a big fan of taco cars.
Oh yeah.
That's my thing.
Yeah.
The ones like down at Sears or what?
Yeah. There's
Well, you probably have a ton of them out in West Valley area.
a couple. There's one in front of the Harmons out there that's really, really good. And then I really like, the one that's on the corner of, it'd be 8th South and Main across from is it a Ferrari dealer?
Man, I'm really picking your brain here, aren't I?
Yeah. Yeah. That one has great burritos and tacos. So.
And it bums me out. I've actually talked to a handful of people that they're afraid to try them. It's like,
I don't understand.
It's like, it's delicious.
Yeah.
You just go try it.
Right.
We'll get sick. Man, I'll tell you what, these people, they're not going to, it's these fast food joints that are going to get you sick. They're not ever going to see you again.
Right.
It's like, they don't care. It's these taco carts want to keep seeing you. They're not going to get you sick.
Lone Star Taqueria too. That place is delicious.
Yeah.
Have you been to that one?
I think so.
It's on Fort Union and
a lot of Mexican food we're talking here.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what
I love
that's what I like.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like Mexican food and Thai food a lot, and Vietnamese.
So
I like some pho.
And that's something I haven't really gotten. I don't know. I've tried it. Maybe I just haven't tried it at the right place. There was a place on State and about 15th South, I think, that has some. I tried it there, and I don't know. I just wasn't impressed. I can't even really remember everything. I don't know. And I know there's people that go ape over that stuff.
Yeah, if you get good stuff, it's great.
Yeah. So you've lived in Salt Lake City a long time, Brad.
Yeah, most of my life.
Why do you like it here? I mean, what do you like about Salt Lake?
I don't know. I like the people here.
Just
I feel like people here are pretty nice for the most part. And, I know a lot of people from within the scene, and I talk about this a lot to people. When you get out of high school and you got your little clique of friends and your buddies or whatever that you hang out with, and then they get married and you kind of end up just doing your thing and nothing's really going on. But seeing how I went through this whole scene with tons of people, and I did a radio show, I've done fanzines, I did a record label, my bands.
What was your record label called?
It was called Flatline Records.
Okay, I'm just trying in case I remember it from back in the day or anything.
Yeah, it was really kind of like it's weird. It's kind of a straight edge label, but.
Were you straight edge?
I was not straight edge, but I liked a lot of those bands and I liked a lot of those kids.
Were you straight edge, Chris?
I was straight edge, till I was about 21. No, 21. I like that. No, I think I made it to like 22, 23. Wow. I made it, a little, and I mean, I was serious. No alcohol, nothing. I didn't touch a drop of alcohol, and then I stayed vegan for a few more years after that, and,
people change.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
We'll leave it there. We'll leave it there.
Straight edge is for the under 21.
It's a good idea.
It's a great idea.
It's a great idea. And I think it definitely, I think it helps you when you're younger, when you're a teenager. I think you don't make wise decisions maybe when it comes to alcohol. Yeah, and I think when you're a little older, you can handle it a little bit better. Right. You can go to a bar and you can, know when you've had enough. Well, some of us don't know. Some of us don't know when we've had enough, and then you wake up passed out naked next to the toilet and you wonder what the hell you did the night before and
what the fuck?
Who the hell's sleeping in my bed?
Yep.
Why is, anyways.
But what I was saying is, so I have like this huge amount of people that I would actually call close friends.
Mm.
And it's a lot of people. And it's because
you got
was
involved.
Part of this scene.
Yeah.
And these people are tight knit people and they will help each other and they will, I don't know. And they'll come and support your band and it's just a great little community and they've all gone on to kind of do their own things. And a lot of them are doing their own businesses and different things, but they're down to earth kind of grassroots businesses. They're not, ruthless, money grubbing type businesses. They're still, connected to something.
A lot of local
bigger and better
businesses
than that. Yeah.
Popping up.
Right.
A lot, they're real people here, there are people that try hard in Salt Lake, but I think for the most part, it's just like, hey, you know what? This is who I am.
Right.
That I've discovered.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I do definitely agree with you. I think you're able to, it's a lot easier, I think, to meet people here and to kind of get involved in the music scene or the art scene. Would you change anything about Salt Lake? Is there anything you'd like to see different?
The only thing I'd like to see different is something that probably, can't really be changed. It's like that everywhere. Is just the support of local artists and bands. And, it's just.
That's getting better, though.
I think so.
And especially if they come out to Five Monkeys on November 9th.
Exactly.
Which they should, because it's for a good cause. Again, nice people doing nice things for other people.
Well, exactly. And just to kind of even tie all that back up with, you're saying come out and support art. I think, especially if this is your first event, if you're listening and you wanted to come to an event, I mean, it's pretty chill, right? I mean,
it's very chill.
You just come
out and hang out and it's a bar, right?
It's a bar.
So you can go get a beer and listen to music. When is your band, do you know when the bands are going to be playing or?
We'll probably we'll have Victims Willing go first. Don't know what time it's going to, doors will open about 8.
Yeah.
Kylie Cook is a comedian. He's going to do a set. I don't know how long his set's going to be, but we'll kind of play it by ear. But Victims Willing will play, and then Tough Tittie. Then we'll do the art raffle afterwards. So.
And again, I had the address written down here somewhere. What is the address? 7th East, 4800 South. Pretty easy to find.
Yeah,
right?
just west of state. Just.
And I'll put the link for the event on the show notes as well, so people listening. Have you created a Cre801 website yet?
Just Facebook, Twitter.
Get Cre801.com. You need to get that registered.
I really should.
You need to get that registered. And anything else, Brad, that you want to add before we wrap this up? I mean, anything else?
Not really, other than really, if you're listening, come out and support this thing. You can't lose just by going, because you'll get to look at some really great art, and you might like the bands. And even if you don't, you're supporting something good. You're helping a child who is sick and his family. And that's an important thing. And come do that, if nothing else.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's a great cause. I think you found a great cause. I mean, they're all great causes that you do, but
it's a little more personable when it's affecting one person or one family, Well,
especially a little dude like that.
A little guy. Yeah. I mean, I have a son the same age. So when I read the mom's blogs, sometimes I get teary,
I could imagine.
It's very, very touching. And, even if you don't come to this event, you can make a donation at any U.S. bank, just under the name Corbin's Cause, but you got to spell it right. And it's KORBYNS. So
if you're listening, if you're out of the state of Utah and you can't make the event, well, I guess U.S. You said any U.S. bank.
Any U.S. bank.
So, and I imagine there's U.S. banks outside of Utah.
I would think so.
I don't know. I don't keep up with the bank market. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's something that people probably don't think about a lot. It's like, not only is that a hardship and hard for people to deal with, and you have somebody going through something so horrible, but the financial burden of hospital care of any kind is just ungodly. And who's prepared for that? Who is prepared?
Well, especially for such a young child.
A child with cancer, and they got to get help from somewhere. So you got to look at your community to do that.
It's $5 at the door, and 100% of the door will go to Corbin. 100% of the art raffle will go to Corbin too. So we want a lot of people out there.
That's cool. That says a lot about Five Monkeys too. If they're willing to donate the whole door.
Well, awesome. Yep. Anything else? We're going to end it with a Tough Tittie song. Is there a track that you want, a specific track that you think would be fun to go out with? Or?
I like Crazy Jane. That's my favorite from theirs. Do you have a favorite? You're friends with the guys. You've played a lot of shows with them.
I have favorites, but I couldn't tell you the names of them is the problem.
Well, Crazy Jane. I
like Crazy Jane. So
we'll end it there. And again, all the links will be up on the show notes. So you get involved, get in touch with these bands, artists, support them, support the cause. Thank you so much, Jeramie and Brad.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll play some Tough Tittie.
Cutter.